NFL Sunday Ticket is now on YouTube and YouTube TV, which means that you can stay close to your team even if you don't live in their town. Like, maybe you're a Raven who married a Seahawk who got a job in the land of the Falcons. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you can watch your team's out-of-market Sunday afternoon games no matter where you live, because you shouldn't have to change teams even if you change towns. NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to youtube.com/presale to get $50 off.
Terms and embargoes apply. Offer ends 9/19. No refund. Subscription auto renews.
This is the House of Hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. Hockey is more than a game. It's a lifestyle. It's you, the diehard supportive fans, your favorite players who are on the team you cheer for, and the organization who supports them.
The companies that make your gear, bags, and beer league sweaters. The hockey moms and hockey dads, and everything else that makes this House of Hockey your home. Come on in. I'm Breezy.
And I'm Rae.
And this is our house.
Welcome to the House of Hockey podcast. This is episode 108, and I'm one of your hosts, Rae.
I'm your other host, Breezy, and we have a pretty cool guest on this week's episode. You want to take it away?
Oh my God. Yes, this conversation is so fun. He's so funny, so smart. Mark Yannetti. He is let's get his title right, the LA Kings Director of Amateur Scouting. We talked all of the things, like what he looks for in scouting, everything you've ever wanted to know about a scout's life. We also just talked about the game as a whole, the league as a whole, lacrosse style goals. Like, what didn't we talk about?
Yeah, I have no idea. We talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of good stuff. If you're not a Kings fan, you'll still enjoy it. I think you'll still enjoy it at least.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't go too hard on Kings talk. I mean, a little bit. We had to have a little clarification on which Drew we were talking about, just for those who aren't Kings fans. But other than that, it wasn't too hyper focused on the Kings, I don't think.
No, I think it was a good balanced conversation. Mark is awesome, or should we call him Yank is awesome. We had a really good time talking to him. So
sorry, my computer's unplugged. Go ahead, I'm listening.
No, you're fine. We'll get to his conversation in a little bit. But I think we have a couple stories to go over prior to that.
There we go. We sure do. And I want to start with the draft sort of headlines, since we're talking to Mark this episode, sort of scouting and prospects and all of that. Well, two big name prospects have signed their official contracts to play in the NHL, starting with Owen Power. He has officially signed his contract with the Buffalo Sabres. He was the number one pick in 2021. The defenseman could make his NHL debut on Tuesday against the Leafs. Here's a couple of stats for you on the kid, who's unbelievable. No wonder he went number one. 32 points in 33 games at Michigan this season, because this is the time of year where a lot of these, what we're seeing more so now, of these collegiate players who are being drafted, but then deciding to play another season with their collegiate team before entering into the NHL. This has kind of been something new we've seen a little bit. But now they're like, okay, we're ready. Let's do it. I'm ready for the NHL. I just need one more season, with Michigan.
Oh man, that's great. I mean, I think you want to finish out, finish out, but if you're still vibing with your college buddies, yeah, you really want to get into the NHL, but you probably still want to finish out, your season there, right?
Yeah. I don't know that. Yeah, exactly. I would. And I think, Michigan is dominating, because there was 5 or 6 draft picks from that class or something like that. I don't have the exact number, but another one of the Michigan players on the current team, at least, Kent Johnson, he signed a 3-year entry-level contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets on Friday. So that starts this season. He's a 19-year-old sophomore. He's a forward with the University of Michigan, and he was selected number 5 overall in 2021. And he is expected to join the team on Monday and possibly play the Montreal Canadiens on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but
crazy teams to be coming in to play your first NHL games against, right?
yeah, but they're both on teams that are not in playoff contention. And so that makes sense to give them that opportunity to get their feet wet in the NHL, face some of those bigger teams with some depth on them, and get them that feeling so that when they start in the fall, it's not so overwhelming, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think over the last couple, was it probably at least the last month or so, the Sabres have been playing pretty good hockey. So that's a positive for not only Sabre fans, but obviously Owen Power as well. But the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're not a terrible team either.
No.
They are, I mean, their division's a pretty tough division, and they're right there. Like if they were to just win a couple games, and I think who's right above, I forgot who's right above them, but if they were just to lose a couple games, I mean, they're within like 8 points, I think it is. So it's like they're not too far out. So, and the Blue Jackets have made it to the playoffs a couple of times over the last few years. So, yeah, I mean, I still think that they have, a good opportunity, and their talent could obviously help the team out. So,
yeah, it's exciting to see. It'll be fun to watch these guys play, which makes the end of the official regular season of the NHL a little more exciting for teams that are out of playoff contention, right? To see how these young guys are going to do, moving forward. So
what a tease for those players. I mean, just dipping your toes in the last of the season when everyone's kind of like down in the dumps because you're not making it to the playoffs, and then nope, now it's summertime.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good little buffer zone, but that's just me. I mean, I what do I know? I've never played in the NHL, so
right now that brings me to the question: if they are technically playing then the end of the season, does this make it their rookie season, so the beginning of next season is a sophomore season?
I think technically, yeah,
but not really. It would still be a rookie season. I think you have to get like a certain amount of games under your belt before it could be like a rookie season. But
I think so. But does that mean they get rookie parties? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah.
I don't know those rules. We're gonna have to ask. We're gonna have to ask one of our NHL buddies what that is. Have them on figure that out.
What's the rookie party protocol?
Yeah, just steps foot on ice counts, like during regular season or playoffs, counts as a rookie. Like must throw a party, and pay all of it. I don't know, but we're gonna go from rookies to retirees, and retirees. That's a word, yeah. So Ryan Getzlaf announced that he is done at the end of this season with the Anaheim Ducks. He's broken tons of records with them. He's hanging them up. And I got to say, the thing I'm most excited for is the very small possibility that his wife might now be able to be on the Real Housewives of Orange County. Because if you ever listened, he did an interview with Chicklets, and somehow it came up and that his wife had gone through the audition process to be a Real Housewife. And Getzlaf was like, you're out of your mind if I'm going to be on that show. But now he's retired, so he can be on the show, or she can, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. I mean, I thought you were going to say who the next captain is probably going to be for the Ducks, but that's fine too.
Hard left turn. What is your opinion on Getzlaf?
I think Getzlaf, he's a great player, right? I mean, he is obviously a really good captain, and I think that the Ducks have been really lucky to have him in the locker room and serve as their captain for however many years that was. I mean, he was a Duck for 17 seasons,
A
17
long
years.
time. Yep.
Whatever it was, 17 years. I don't know. That's terrible. I should have my facts straight. I freaking am on this podcast. Anywho.
Listen, we're not facts kit guys here, okay?
No.
Like, we might be off a year.
Yeah, no, but I think Getsy's a good guy. I think he's a good captain. Obviously, he put up a fight against the Kings quite a few times. But I think you got to be happy for the guy. I think he's played a great career. I think he's done good things. I hear he's a great person. I don't know. It's going to be different not seeing him on the ice. Like, I probably shouldn't say I'll miss him, but I think that just kind of takes away from just what the game is, right? And like you grow up watching all these players, and then once you see them retire, even though they're not from a team that you necessarily follow or don't necessarily like that much, it's still hard. I mean, I think it's good for him, but I think it's really good for him to be able to retire and spend time with his family.
Yeah. So congrats to Getzlaf. Congrats to Marian Hossa, Chicago Blackhawk, who officially retired as a Blackhawk this week. He signed a one-day contract, and they had to move his ceremony. It was supposed to be earlier in the season, I think. And I don't remember the reasoning why, but they had to move this, or they moved this whole thing around. But what a guy. They had so many players from those cups on the ice with him during his retirement. And I think was it from his retirement or was it from Taze's 1000th goal? I don't remember the picture. I think it was Taze 1000th game, not goal. I think it was Taze. I think it was for Taze's 1000 game. They had a bunch of the boys, like Sharpie was down there and Siebes and the Mutt and like all the guys from those years, which is super cool that they got to be there to celebrate. But I'm happy Hossa got to retire a Blackhawk because that's where he deserved to retire.
Definitely. I agree with that.
And shout out to a guest of the podcast, Lou Nolan. He is the public address announcer for the Philadelphia Flyers. He is currently celebrating and in his 50th season. I think we talked to him during his 49th season. He's been doing that for 50 seasons. That's just bananas. He's the longtime voice of Spectrum Wells Fargo Center, and he is going to be honored before the game against the Ducks today when we're recording this on Saturday. So cheers to you, Lou. You deserve it. That Pico power play, we love it. I think Flyers fans know and love you and hope you do 50 more seasons. I mean, I don't think he has any, he didn't give us any indication that he was done. So it's like,
not at all.
He loves it, right?
He does. What a guy. I mean, I love talking to him. He was such a character and so fun. And oh man, hopefully he's got another 50 seasons in him.
Yeah, but congrats, Lou, and enjoy the celebration. It's well deserved. And if you haven't listened to that episode with him, couldn't tell you what episode number it was, but just search on your podcast app and download that episode with Lou because it was a really good one. Not just all things Philly and Flyers, obviously, but a lot of just his life and stories and everything. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. So go check that one out. And I think
now you've got something to show me.
Oh, yes, I did it.
She did it, you guys. Do you know what she did? What did Breezy do? Did she buy another jersey? Did she buy a second giant Nashville Cowboy foam hat? Did she buy season tickets somewhere? What did she do?
I feel like I should have done I feel like I should have done the last one. I mean, why wouldn't I do that?
But you did?
I got another jersey. That was it. That's all I did, guys. That's all I did. But it's a sick one because it's the Justin Bieber Maple Leaf jersey. There we go. You can see a number on there. I got a Matthews one. It is actually really cool. I'm really glad I got this one. It's so hard to find, but I was able to get it, and I'm trying to turn it inside out right now. I'm totally not prepared for this. I actually forgot that we were going to talk about this. Good thing I still had it next to me.
It's reversible, and
it is reversible.
The Bieber collab with
what
is his company? Drew House?
Drew House, yeah. So there you go. You got the little Drew eyeballs on there.
Pretty cool.
It's sick. Gonna wear that later.
Yeah, got to start wearing it before it gets too hot. And especially, I think maybe you try this jersey out for playoffs.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I know we talked about potentially me getting a Matthews, or it was a Matthews or a Marner one.
Yeah.
And with Matthews' season this season, I was like, you know what? I gotta get a Matthews jersey. Plus, he's the Bee's best friend. I think it just all made sense for me. So.
What is the game coming to? Anyway, that's great. I think that makes total sense. I'll give you it's his season for sure. He's having an incredible season, Matthews.
Can you say that again for me? Can you say
nope. Nope. You're going to have to listen and rewind and play it over because that's all I got for you. But
it's on the record, by the way. You've now said good things about Matthews a few times on the record. So.
Well, he stopped wearing bucket hats. So that's making me less, makes me like him. No, like him less, like him more.
Like him more. Now there is.
No, hate him less. I hate him less. That's what I was trying to say.
Well,
I don't hate him. I don't hate him. Are you guys kidding? Come on.
You may dislike him a little bit more when people are starting to speculate that I don't want to say speculate. That's probably the wrong word. He is the best American-born player. So that's competition to your Patty Kane there.
I don't have anything to say to that.
That was straight crickets. If looks could kill. Yeah, almost killed me.
You're welcome for the compliments. That's all I got. I mean, I'll give credit when it's due. And
it's due.
It's due.
It's due.
Now, I don't think before. I think now maybe, yeah, but can't comment on that last thing you just said though.
I have the perfect birthday gift for you when it becomes your birthday.
Oh God.
This year.
Don't you dare send me anything Austin Matthews. I'm going to tear that thing up and throw it in the trash can.
It's going to be a nice little collector's piece for you. Don't you worry. I got
better not be a framed picture of Austin Matthews in a goddamn bucket hat, because that is gonna just. Nope,
it's even better than that.
Gonna just. If I saw that picture hanging up in my house, it would make me so mad every time I walked by it. It would just be horrible. So.
Nope, I got something even better planned for you.
Oh boy. Thank God we have a little time, and then I'll forget about this. So that'll be good.
You're just going to get a package in the mail and be like, oh, Breezy sent me something. And be so excited. You're going to open it up and you're going to be like,
Yep. I'll have to make sure I open it here on the pod.
Yeah.
All right. Enough about us yammering about nothing. Please enjoy our conversation with Mark Yannetti. He's a blast. We had a lot of fun, so enjoy the conversation. This week's episode of the House of Hockey podcast is brought to you by hockey fans. Feel the action on the ice like never before with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. Right now, new customers can bet just $1 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets if they do. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can still hit the ice for cold hard cash. New customers can make their first deposit and play free for thousands with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. Draft your lineup of 8 skaters and a goalie and rack up points for goals, assists, saves, and more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN, that's THPN, for the Hockey Podcast Network. Bet just $1 on any NHL team to win and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. 21 and over. Restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Welcome to the House of Hockey podcast. We have with us Mark Yannetti. He is the LA Kings Director of Amateur Scouting. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yank. Can we hear this story? People call you Yank.
It's not a great story. Like everyone thinks it's because I was playing pro hockey in the South in the minor leagues and stuff. I got sent down from San Diego to San Antonio. And I got sent down and played right away a game, and the coach forgot my name, and he was trying to tell me to get on the ice, and he was like, Yank, whatever the fuck your name is, get on the ice. And guys just started calling me Yank. So it's simply just because John Torchetti, who you're a Chicago fan, John Torchetti was my coach, and he forgot my name.
That's pretty funny.
That's it.
I think just to start it off, how did you originally get into scouting?
It's funny. When I was done playing in the minors, I thought that's it. Like, I'm not one of those guys, like, when I'm done with something, I'm done with something. But my dad was scouting. My dad scouted for about 23 years, I think. And I had just finished playing in the minors, and I was just off, it was the summer, I was off. But the NHL was, his team was still playing, and he wanted me to watch a game and tell him what I thought about something. So like system stuff. So I went to the game, and I wrote up a report for him, and he thought it was really good. And he asked if he could send it to his GM. And I was like, okay, you can just use it however you want. Doesn't matter to me. And they sent it to the GM, and then the GM called me the next day and asked if I would do advanced scouting. There wasn't as much video back then. There wasn't as much of the media and the data and all that stuff. So it was a lot of going to a game, watching it, writing, the system, the forecheck, how you beat it, and all that stuff. So I had a knack for it, I guess, and I wasn't doing anything, so I figured, okay, it's just cool. I'll do this for a month or two, and then whatever. It's pretty easy. And I did it, and then they asked if I would want to do it next year if I was going to stop playing. And I was like, yeah, what the hell? I don't have anything else to do. I don't know what I thought I might go teach at a boarding school or do something like that, which I was kind of aimless at the time. So I did that and agreed to scout for them. I scouted for them and ended up liking it, and was fortunate enough to turn it into a career.
That is awesome. So just for reference, what would you say, or who would you say is the biggest player that you have scouted that people may know of today?
Well, obviously Drew. I mean, back, that was, Mike Sciuto was my co-director at the time. And
I'm just going to say Drew Doughty for anybody who's not a Kings fan.
Sorry.
That's what you mean?
Drew Doughty.
Drew you mean? Okay, yeah,
yes,
okay. I figured, but
it's really rare. But the first time we saw Drew Doughty play as a draft year -1. So the year before his draft year, we were at a tournament, and I think we had like 9 executives and scouts there. And within one period, everybody turned to each other and was like, everybody was enamored with this guy. Like, this is like, it rarely happens that way. Usually somebody there's usually some naysayer, some guy in the group who's got to be contrarian. And he's like, oh, he's done. But everybody was like that. I can remember Jack Ferrara, who worked for the Kings, was just like, he'd been in hockey for 50 years at the time. And he said he'd never seen anybody process the game like him. So the year before he was even draft eligible, he was a guy that we were completely in love with. And then we ended up with the second pick, and he was the guy for us. So it was my first full draft. The year before, I had only taken over halfway through the year, and this was the first draft we ever did where everybody was in place. So it was a kind of a cool thing.
Did a pretty good job with that one.
Yeah, it's not, it's funny. He wasn't a consensus guy back then. Like, there were guys that thought Bogosian, there were some guys that thought Filatov, some guys that thought Peter Angelo, but it's not like that was rocket science scouting. He's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Okay, what's some rocket science scouting then that you found, or somebody that you've sort of seen something and they've developed?
Well, again, you got to make sure the staff gets credit on this because
Right.
the rocket science, the guys where you look like a genius, and like you get an Alec Martinez in the 4th round or a Dwight King, in the 4th, and they help you win a Stanley Cup, and they've gone. Alec Martinez went through the draft twice, so I mean he got passed over twice when we draft him in the 4th round, and he ends up being on 2 of our Stanley Cup teams. He's on Vegas' team now. But like if a guy like Tony Gasparini doesn't see him, like that guy never would have been on my radar or Mike Feuda's radar. So, again, what would it, Hillary is, whoever said takes a village, like, I don't know, dating myself with that, but it really is that. Like, I mean, those guys get overlooked all the time. I mean, again, you got overlooked 2 years in a row. So, a guy like Tony brings him to the staff, and then all of a sudden we watch him. I never saw. I don't think I ever saw Alec play live before we drafted him. So Tony had said that this is a guy you might want to pay attention to at one of our meetings, and we grabbed a video and liked him. And then the GM Dean Lombardi he's like, you know what? We end up watching 7 videos of him. So right, just back to back. We binge watched Alec Martinez, Bridgerton or whatever. So yeah, that's what it was. Binge watch. You just watch one, like, nah, I'm not going to be into this, and then all of a sudden you're 7 episodes deep. So no, that's kind of a cool one. So he is, and he, as you said, we probably couldn't have won without him. So.
Yeah. How long have you been with the organization, with the Kings now? How many years?
God, I would say 14 years, maybe, in that realm. I don't even know which year I started.
That's okay. That's close. And I just wanted like a ballpark.
A long time. More than I've been with anyone in my life. So.
Hysterical. How many years ahead are you looking to scout for, like 2023, 24, 25? Like, what's that mental process like within an organization?
So it really depends. So I have a bunch of scouts that work, underneath. So some of the guys, like in each of their areas, they'll know guys. I mean, you can know someone like Shane Wright or Lafreniere as early as 14 or 15. Okay. So, in their area, some of the guys will know 15, 16. They usually don't come on my radar until their draft year, or maybe even the draft year -1, if they're exceptional. So for me, it's a much more immediate process and recent process. And then for some of my scouts, it goes back as much as 3 or 4 years.
And do you have like a specific thing that stands out to you where you're like, oh, I'm going to write this guy's name down over like something else? Like, is there like a specific quality, or I don't know, this guy can skate backwards in like 5 times speed or something? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you see the speed of the game now. So obviously skating is one of the more important elements, and a guy who stands out with speed or quickness probably stands out and is one of those guys who rates, at least a note about it. Again, without getting into, I hate the phrase hockey sense because it's just so vague and all encompassing, and it doesn't really say much. But if you have 5 hours, we can talk about hockey sense and boring, eye bleeding minutia and stuff. But hockey sense for me is what is when I see a guy who really gets it, whether it's instincts or whether, you see Tom Brady, like progression based sorting, like Tom Brady can look at a defense and do 4 checkdowns in 3 seconds. Like, we don't have that quite similar translation, but like a guy who processes things like that quickly, that really is probably the thing that gets my attention the most.
Would you say that there's like a big trend across the league right now of sort of modeling teams after, like, the Blues, I would say would be like the most recent, where you've got like the big, tough, still fighting defenseman kind of situation, but with this 4-line deep, strong sort of offense? Like, we've seen a lot of teams try to adjust to that. Like, I mean, and it's very obvious to like a fan, from a fan's perspective, when you see like the Maroon then go to Tampa and the success, but it's not just him, obviously, there's like a lot of other players, but is that something that a lot of teams are going for? Because we've seen it in somewhat kind of maneuvering players around in that sort of way, or is that just like a dumb fan perspective?
No. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of teams trying to get softer.
Well, right.
In terms of, it's funny, in terms of building a team, like when we first started out in LA, we were always we're trying to be the next Detroit, or you're trying to be the next Boston, or the next. And I can remember in the room once someone said, "How about we just be the fucking Kings?" Because you're always playing catch up. And what happens is, by the time you're trying to be Detroit, everybody's trying to be Chicago, and by the time you're trying to be Chicago, everyone's trying to be LA, and then by the time everyone's trying to be LA, you're trying to be Pittsburgh or Tampa. That being said, I don't think you can win. And again, I think Tampa figured that out. When we built our Stanley Cup teams, we had an eye towards certain types of players. We had to go out sometimes and supplement in a skill area here, but we always had the hard, the heavy, whatever you want to call it, those type of character players. We again, for some reason, we were adept at drafting them. And then Tampa always had like the Kucherovs and the Stamkos. And again, we couldn't win without getting a little more skilled in certain areas. And Tampa learned that they couldn't win without getting a little more heavy and a little more tough in some areas. So we ended up getting to a similar point from two completely opposite paths. So you're always trying to get a Patrick Maroon. You're always trying to get those guys. It just depends. Is your philosophy to start with them? Is your philosophy to pick them up in the years just as you're contending, or is your process like Tampa? You're now the contending team and you need to fill in those pieces. So that's it. Everyone's trying to get them.
And the game has changed so much. I mean, when the Kings won the Stanley Cup, I feel like the team was the team still is currently super like defense oriented, right? Like we don't have a whole lot of goal scorers, at least the last few seasons. There hasn't been very many goal scorers other than Adrian Kempe this season. But now you have the teams who have won the Stanley Cup over the last few years. It's like goal after goal after goal. So, I mean, how hard is that to try to know that, like, well, the game has, moved on and evolved so much from being like a core, like heavy hitters, the core defense to like now you're doing trick shots and lacrosse goals that are the ones that are, kind of being game winners.
Yeah. Again, teams have gotten more skilled, more speed oriented. I mean, you see the Leafs, Carolina, Tampa, obviously. But don't forget, when Tampa was the skilled team, they couldn't win. Like they were outscoring everybody, but they couldn't win until they brought those guys in. I mean, they were bringing Bogosian in on the back line to be a six for them. They were bringing in McDonough in the twilight of his career, who was now transitioned to a more defensive and character style. They're bringing in the Colemans, the Maroons. So I don't think you can win without talent. It's impossible. I mean, you can't just put a bunch of character guys on the ice and heavy fight, whatever you want. You can't win without talent. There's no question. And but you still, like Tampa wasn't just rolling over and outscoring everyone. They got Vasilevsky there. They got Hedman eating up, 27 minutes a game. They convinced Kucherov and Stamkos and guys like that to play defense for 2 months during the season. Again, it's a different, getting a skill guy to play defense is exceptional. I mean, because when you got a guy like Kucherov or Stamkos playing defense, like you already got the offense with them, and now you don't have the holes. You're not having to bring in two guys to do the job of one. So, as I said, you're right. You definitely need to keep up in the skill game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Though, if you watch the way we've drafted the last 5 years, our philosophy has shifted from how we used to draft, in 2009, 2010, 2011. It's a different general manager. It's a different league, and it's a different philosophy. And again, we're drafting slightly different players, a slightly different philosophy to approach that kind of skill gap that we had at, between getting rid of all our draft picks, between playing all those games and all the trades and everything. At sooner or later, you fall off the top of the mountain. So our revamp happened, or, our retool or rebuild, whatever you want to call it, happened at the same time the league was sort of shifting. So our philosophy changed, as you said, in that direction towards skill, skating, scoring, and you'll see like in the minor leagues and some of our younger guys now, there's a lot more goals coming. Our American League team is, I don't know if they're second or third in terms of goals scored. So, you're right.
So what you're saying, if you're reading in between the lines, is that Trevor Zegras needs to chill out on those lacrosse goals, or else you're not going to win a Stanley Cup.
No, we were just talking about this.
I think Zegras with the lacrosse goals are awesome.
They're fun.
I really, they're fun. They're awesome. I don't think his lacrosse goal is going to win a Stanley Cup. That being said,
that literally what I said, Breezy. That's literally what I said. I'm like, he is not going to win a Stanley Cup with that. Like, it's fun,
but again, he doesn't have to win a Stanley Cup with lacrosse. Listen, there's times of the seasons to have fun. Like, listen, Zegras is one of the most skilled players in the league. And the fact that he can score a lacrosse goal, God bless him, go score 10 of them. But when you see Trevor, and again, look at his game when he was a draft year -1 with the program, his draft year with the program, his college year, and then you're going to see a transition in his game. I mean, he was all offense, all fancy, all the time, draft year -1. And then his draft year, he was all offense, pretty fancy, and then by the end of the year, and you talk to him, he seemed like a different kid. By his first time he's playing in the NHL, he ain't just a lacrosse goal scoring player. Like, he is a skilled player who's, as I said, it's year 1 in the league. By the time he's year 3, year 4, all those other things are going to come. And I loved the kid when we interviewed him. I saw a kid who really burned to play, and if he can score a lacrosse goal, he's gonna. But there's going to come a time in the near future where he's going to block a shot, or he's going to do some of those other things to help his team win. But, in February, lacrosse goal is great. It really is. I think it's awesome. I'd love to have him on a team. Like, I'd love that skill. It's just, instead of him scoring a lacrosse goal in the playoffs, he's going to beat a defenseman and zip one off in the stride and go top shelf in the goalie. It's the same skill. It's just going to be channeled in a different way.
Very true. Very true.
But I like lacrosse goal. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
We think it's really fun, but we also think that maybe he needs to mellow it out and not make it like his every day or every game kind of deal. But they are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you are watching, what should fans at home, when they're watching AHL games or going to AHL games, what is something they should be watching for in future NHLers? Is there a specific style of play or thing, or how do we see what you see? When you're watching and you see the quote hockey sense, how does a fan see that? We can't.
I mean, well, yes and no. I mean, again, I couldn't see it when I first started scouting. There's certain things you learn and you see, and I don't know that it's no fun to watch a game like that. I'm not gonna lie. It's not always fun when you're breaking it down at that level. But I don't know. I like watching a football game and not having to worry if Brady took 4 steps in the drop, or did he check his weak side? Check down. Did the left tackle not? I like watching a sport where I like just watching greatness. You can go to an American League game and watch Quentin Byfield. You can watch Jordan Spence. All that stuff. I would say don't do it. But I mean, but if you want to study the game, you find the players that are really good at the highest levels and see the things they do, and then you do the trickle down effect. What makes Andrzej Kopitar so good down low? What makes what makes Trevor Zegras is, how does he create his offense? Since we were talking about him earlier, things like that. What makes Pat Maroon so much of a dominating physical force when things get hard? If you watch that in the NHL level and you see, and then you look for the diet soda version of that in the minor leagues. If you're looking for a young kid, you're looking for him to learn it. If you're looking for an older vet in the American League, you're seeing the guy probably on the tail end of his career coming down. So you can pick things out like that, but I don't know. I think that takes some of the fun out of the game. I mean, you go watch Brent Clark in the CHL. Just watch him take over a game. Watch him do dumb things. Watch him try to beat 4 guys and lose the puck. That's fun because there's only a certain amount of times in your life when a kid can do that. You can't do that at the NHL level because you're not going to be there for long. But you can get away with that at certain levels, and you can get away with certain things at the AHL level you can't get at the NHL level. So, as I said, I would just pick out the type of guys you like and watch them do good and bad things, and that's what I would do. I don't know. I think like watching if Spence or Grands or Dursey missed the weak side checkoff, or if they should have gone back to their partner because the other team's playing a strong side lock forecheck and forcing it up the wing is not. I don't know. I think that sucks. I wouldn't go to a whole lot of American League games if I was doing it like that.
That's true. That's a little overwhelming, and I've never looked at it that way, and I probably will never look at it that way now.
Me neither. No, it hurts my head. I'm like, I didn't sign up for like physics and like mathematics and economics today. I signed up just to watch some good old fashioned hockey. So yeah,
that's how I don't know. I don't know. I think it's more fun to be a fan. Well, it depends. Sometimes it sucks being a fan, but
depends
team's
how
good.
Your
it's fun. If the team stinks, it sucks.
That's very true. Well, speaking of watching greatness and being a fan, what have you gone to that has been like your most favorite like hockey moment or your favorite hockey event that you've been to?
Well, I mean, when we won the cup, it was unbelievable. Obviously, that was, it was semi unexpected. We went. I think we won 10 straight on the road. Like, at one point, like I remember the Vancouver series. Like we're playing the number 1 seed. You're not expected to win. I mean, you hope you won, but all of a sudden you get back. There's no stress in that series for as me watching it. There's no stress. I mean, you're playing with house money by that point, and all of a sudden you beat them, and now you play St. Louis, and they're supposed to kill us. So the first 2 games, you're like, you know what, they're supposed to kill us, whatever. All of a sudden you're up to this. Like, it was fun until we won the second game in St. Louis. And then it was just stress the whole time. No, it was crazy. Right? I couldn't believe it. Like, it was as soon as we won the second game in St. Louis, you're like, geez, we could play these fucking guys. Like, you never know what's going to, like, and then they're like, well, you're playing Phoenix. Oh, we're supposed to beat Phoenix. Well, except we were supposed to lose to the other 2 teams. They were supposed to beat it. Now what if Phoenix beat them? We're 1 step away. Like I was driving myself neurotic. And then we get up. I think we were up on Phoenix 3-0. I'm like, oh my God, what if we lose now? We're the worst team ever. And then you get, and now you're in New Jersey, and you're like, okay, we're supposed to beat New Jersey, but they're coming out of the East. It's even, and we're up 3-0 on Jersey, and like, and all of a sudden we drop the next game, and then the next game, and you're like, oh, we get this close. So right. I think my best moment was the last 8 minutes of the last Jersey game when we were up by 4 goals. Like, that was the only time I can remember all of us in the box together, just looking at each other. Like, no one wants to say anything, because you don't want to jinx it, but everybody knew it was over. And like, it was those 8 minutes, the 8 minutes before the game ended were like the greatest 8 minutes, because everybody was like, and everybody had helped build the team, and they were there. It was just a really cool vibe. And then everybody, and then it was every man for himself, guys knocking everybody over so they could get out of the room and be the first one on the ice. So the whole teammate thing, as soon as the horn blew, it was like, Lord of the Flies. It was like, get out, I don't want to get the cup. So
you watched that as a fan, right?
Yeah.
You had your fan hat on.
I was terrified. I don't know if is that how a fan watches it? Like, I've never had that kind of investment. So I was terrified for a month.
Yes, that's how I would say I was.
then
Breezy, is that how you were when the Hawks were in the playoffs like that? You're like, I'm a nervous wreck, like stressed out, and I haven't invested any time or energy in the players and bringing them to the team. So yeah, that's I think how a lot of hockey fans watch.
Well, then that's it. Then that was me. That was me as a fan. Then because someone said, "Hey, how's it going?" Oh, shut up! I don't care. Don't talk to me. I couldn't be around people for a long time.
I couldn't either. I had to go, I forget what year this was, but I used to live in LA, and it was right during the years of our back and forth with the Kings and the Hawks. And I ended up going to a bar in Santa Monica to watch the game because I couldn't get it on my broke ass Wi-Fi, didn't have cable, whatever. I had to go to the bar to watch it. And I went, and I had my one girlfriend who's a hockey fan. She came and joined me, and I was like, listen, I'm not going to talk to you the whole time. Like, I am going to be very focused. Please don't talk to me. She's like, that's okay. I'm just here for moral support. I know how it is. And I was like, okay. So like, it's a thing. Or maybe it's just some of us weird hockay fans, maybe. Yeah. Breezy, are you able to communicate? Because I'm not.
Like my co-director, it's funny, my co-director, Mike Feudo, he was one of the people that I was close. He's a close friend now. Like, he was a guy who was a coworker who's turned into a extraordinarily close friend. He's like a hugger and a talker, and he's like, hey, if he sees that I'm nervous, he wants to talk and make me feel, and I just want him to shut the fuck up. Like, so he'd be next to me trying to talk to me. I'd be sitting there not wanting to talk to everybody. Now he wants to talk to me more because he thinks I'm more stressed, and I want him to beat it more. So that's kind of how we were in the box together. And another guy, Alan McCauley, was on my other side, and he was like me. He just sat there straight and looked at it. And I kept trying to get him in between me and Mike, but it just never seemed to work.
I know for right now, me as a fan is probably a little blindsided in what I'm thinking. So I'm curious to what you think is. So think back on the 2012 Cup run, right? When the Kings were crushing it on the road. Do you see similar characteristics to the Kings this season compared to the 2012 season? And for me, I think that the way that they've been playing, they have pretty good odds to make it far into the playoffs if they keep it up, almost mirror to how they were kind of in 2012. What do you think?
You know what? I do. It's funny. I do see similarity. Now, again, I don't want someone watching this to say that the 2012 team, again, I'm biased, obviously, but the 2012 team, I don't think they could lose a 7-game series to anybody ever. I'm not saying they're the best team. I'm not even saying they're close to the best team. I'm just saying in a 7-game series, you'd be hard pressed to find a team in history to beat that team in 7 games. I mean, lightning in a bottle.
It's
rushing. As I said, it was a hard team to play in 7 games. Now, the team almost didn't get into the playoffs. There's plenty of reasons to say that other teams were superior in terms of talent, but in 7 games, you go ahead, find somebody. It wasn't happening. Yeah. There was a mental fortitude, a character. There's some of those elements in the team now. Like, I mean, at one time in the last 3 weeks, we were starting 6 brand new defensemen. Our 6 defensemen from the beginning of the season were gone. I mean, and I think 5 of them were rookies. Like, yeah. And they're finding a way to win. And you got Kopitar out, you had Arvidsson out, you had, like, the fact that these guys were able to deal with adversity. That's where the similarity was. These guys were able to, deal with adversity, and you knew they were going to find a way. And I love that about this group. There's that element in this group. The difference is the 2012 team was a little more talented in certain areas. That doesn't mean that this team can't go far. I mean, this team continues to surprise me. I think they're surprising probably the only people they aren't surprising is themselves, because the self-belief that these guys are showing, it just doesn't matter. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, going into Calgary and Edmonton and Winnipeg with the roster they did on the road and playing games and every other night and coming out 2-0-1, I mean, it defies logic. So the fan in me, I guess, that we're talking about, the fan in me says, geez, these guys can do anything, and then but then the employee in me and the evaluator in me says, oh, pump the brakes, man. You got a bunch of rookies, you got Drew out, you got, this team wasn't supposed to make the playoffs this year. They were supposed to kind of be in the mix. So, the realist in me is like, well, no, I mean, it's just, it's not possible, other than the fact that the realist in me didn't think we were going to win a cup in 2012 either. So I love the attributes they have. There's certainly some similarities. There's certainly some parallels, but again, a lot of things went right that first year too. I mean, we didn't have an injury. You get in the playoff. I mean, not that we could have any more injuries than we do now, but a lot of good things have to happen despite being the best team or the worst team, or you can't get there. Regardless of, I think St. Louis was a 7 or an 8 seed too when they won. A lot of good things happened to them on that run, just like a lot of good things happened to us on our run. So, I mean, shit, anything can happen. We're already exceeding what I thought we would. So I hope we exceed right up into the final game of the Stanley Cup and win. But I don't want to jinx anything. So I see some similarities, and I'll leave it there.
And you do need to touch on, so for any non-Kings fans listening, where they're like, oh, the Pacific Division, isn't even that good because that's why the Kings are doing good, yada, yada, yada. But like, the Pacific Division is pretty stacked. I mean, you got to figure that, the Ducks and the Sharks, who are usually, the number one rivals
used to be.
Teams.
Used to be higher up in the.
Yeah, they used to be higher up, but they're still the rivals for the Kings. Their teams just aren't as good. Like, they're still going through, I don't necessarily want to call it a rebuild, but kind of like a rebuild, right? But they still have some pretty tough competition. Do you think that, just from your personal opinion, that maybe having weaker teams in the Pacific Division or non-weaker teams is going to make the Kings thrive more this year when it wasn't expected?
Well, it certainly helps. I mean, if you stick us in a division with Carolina, Florida, Boston, Toronto, I mean, it's harder to win. It's harder for those guys to win. I mean, it's a whole lot easier for Toronto to win if they're playing Buffalo than if they're playing Carolina. And, so again, the division, and listen, everybody's got a weak team to play or a weak team to beat up on. Arguably the Pacific is thought of as the weakest division this year. And again, I think there's some merit to that. I mean, I'm not going to say, I mean, there's a couple teams that are going through rebuilds. And it definitely helps playing. You should have a better record if you play weaker teams.
Yes.
That being said, I mean, this year we've beaten Florida, we've beaten Tampa, we've beaten Toronto, we've beaten Boston, we've beaten Carolina, we've beaten Calgary. It's not like we've only beaten Arizona, Buffalo. It's not like we've only beaten bad teams. But as I said, they've wanted parity in this league. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I think they've got it. I mean, Boston comes in and beats us 7-1, and then 5 days later we beat them. Like, one of those shouldn't happen. Whether it's us losing 7-1 or us beating them the next time. So, yeah, I think our division is the weakest division, and I think teams in our division get a benefit from playing weaker teams. That doesn't mean hey, Calgary can play Colorado any day. Minnesota can play Carolina any day. I mean, we've seen it. So the division as a whole is weak, but I mean, I don't know if I'm Carolina or if I'm Toronto or Tampa, I'd want to avoid Calgary. I think of other teams I'd want to play. So, the division's weak, but that doesn't mean all the teams are weak. And no. As I said,
and that's temporary. Like, that's not always the case. And like, there's an ebb and a flow to the league over years. Like, you're seeing the shifts happening in Boston and Philly and Chicago taking a dumpster dive, and like some of, like, you see the shift. Like, the Minnesota Wild were in first in the Central for like quite a few weeks, and people weren't even talking about it. And I was like, why aren't people talking about them? Like, this is huge, but nobody talked about the Wild for many, many, many years. So these things shift. So I don't think the Pacific is going to be like this forever. Do you?
Well, no, I mean, take a look at who so Anaheim's considered a lower team right now in the Pacific, right? I mean, they got Terry, they got Zegras, they got Drysdale, they got Comtois, they got Lundstrom. I mean, you go down the list. I mean, they ain't going to be, as I said, you saw them play above themselves in a similar way to people might say we're playing above ourselves, but they play because they got these talented young guys. They're not quite ready to carry the mail or to play that way all year. And they get beat up and they get run down and eventually they get exposed. But those young guys aren't going to be 20 for the next 15 years. They're going to be 23, 24. So, I think you look at Anaheim, and they're eventually going to be if they can continue doing what they're doing, they're going to be a strong team. You look at the Kings. We've had the number one prospect pool, I think, the last 2 years running. If you look at our American League team, at one time they were in first place in the whole American League. Now that we brought our guys up, but we're still a top 5 team in that league, driven by young guys. So you would think the Kings are going to be good. Colorado looks like they're going to be good for a while.
I'm so tired of hearing that.
But again,
from like a fan's perspective, that's been a joke here. I'm like, if I hear one more time that the fucking Avs are going to win the Stanley Cup this season, I'm going to lose my mind. But that's just me.
It's hard to win the cup. I mean,
that's what I mean.
The odds are they're not going to win the cup. They're one of the top teams, there's no question. But I mean, the odds are, again, it doesn't matter. I mean, the odds are, people think Carolina is a great team. People think Toronto's. The odds are that any one of those single teams is not going to win because there's 15 other teams. It's just simple math. But Colorado's a great team. I mean, they're a favorite. But as I said, Anaheim's going to be getting good. We're going to be really good. Arizona's got a long way to go, but knowing Billy and the job he did drafting in St. Louis, I think they have every single pick in the draft this year. I'm not sure, but I think Arizona actually owns all 200 picks. It's amazing how many picks they have. I think they have 8 picks in the first 2 rounds this year.
That's crazy.
So again, and I think they have like 6 picks in the first 2 rounds next year. So the odds are that their rebuild's just starting, but the odds are 4 or 5 years from now that they're going to be similar to what we built in LA, whether they win or not, but they're going to be similar to that. So you got Anaheim on the way up. Eventually you're going to have Arizona on the way up. We should be peaking at that one time. So the Pacific's going to be not a fun place to play in about 2 or 3 years.
Heard it here first. What is the best part of your job as a scout, and what is the hardest part about your job as a scout?
Well, it's funny because if you talk to some guys on my staff, I hate traveling. I'm serious. It's exactly the wrong. I don't like going anywhere. You could put an ankle bracelet on me and give me a 20-mile radius from my house, and I could live the rest of my life out completely happy. I'm serious. Even less than it. But I got 6 guys on my staff that think travel's the greatest part of the job. They love it. Maybe their kids are awful. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I know all their kids. Their kids are all actually awesome. I've even had pancakes for dinner with one of my scouts' daughters. So you haven't lived until you have pancakes for dinner. And she cut my pancakes for me. So the kids are actually all awesome. So I can't say. Wow.
Did the dad do that to butter you up, or what?
No,
was
dad,
that? Hello.
I had the dad over at my house, and I did a homemade tiramisu. I did chicken parm with my own sauce. He calls it sugo. He's an Italian dude. And then total spread. It was unbelievable, and he was like, "Damn, this is as good as my stuff." And I went to his house and I got pancakes. So I hope he sees this. But no, because we joke about that all the time. But no, I hate the travel. I really, really hate the travel. But most of the guys doing it really like the travel. But
so what's the best part?
I love making decisions. I don't want to minimize it, but it's still a great way to compete. I want to beat every single person who does my job. I want to do it. I want to get better players. I want to make sure that, and again, I can say this because he's had success. I want every time, Al Murray was the guy in LA before I was there. So I want to beat Al Murray, because he was there and now I'm here. And I don't want, he's got 2 cups now. So it's great. It's great because it drives me. I'm like, fuck, that guy's got 2 cups now. He's got as many as I do, or Bill Armstrong, who I knew, and he's now in Phoenix. He got 1. Good. Fuck him. I don't want him to get the second. Like, so I still like the competitive part. And again, I never root against anybody. I just want to, I want to compete against them. And I want the Kings amateur staff to beat St. Louis's amateur staff. I want the Kings pro staff to beat, the Bruins pro staff. I want the Kings development staff to beat Chicago's development staff. Like the competitive part of it, even though you're not facing each other directly, like when I was playing, competitive part's the most fun.
It's kind of like playing a little video game, I would imagine. Like you build up this team and you're just sitting there, you're just like, oh, I'm going to be.
No, I mean, again, it
is.
It's fantasy football with, I guess if you bet enough, the implications are the same, but it's fantasy football with your rent at stake. Like if you fuck the fantasy football for 3 years in a row, you're looking for another job. But so
maybe a new career.
Maybe, if you screw it up enough, you're right. So, but no, it's building. It's, again, there's so many moving pieces. Like, the best drafting team has a shitty development staff. They're going nowhere. The best development staff has a shitty drafting team. They're going nowhere. So, it's all those moving pieces and trying to figure out, how it's procedures, it's philosophies, it's application, it's all of those things, a little bit of luck.
But where does that start? Does that start with ownership? Does that start with GM? Like who, and then obviously it trickles down, right? But is there any one person to blame when it goes wrong?
Well, there is, because the GM's the first guy to get fired. Well, the coach is the first guy to get fired. Coaches. So yeah, I mean, fuck, there's plenty of blame to go around. As soon as we screw up,
but you can't blame the coach like that.
Except I think everyone does.
But that's just what they do because they can, and they can get him out of that contract, and the big guys with the money up at the top aren't getting fired, right? So it's not always the coach's fault.
You in the door.
Well,
but you want to be president of the team or GM. I mean, if you're president of the team, you're third to go. The coach is going first, the GM's going second, and you're going third. If you're a really good president, you're the fifth to go. If you're a really good GM, you're the fourth to go.
Really though, really, where is the root? Where does the key to the success lie? Is it in the ownership?
I don't think you can win. I don't think you can win if you have bad. Now, I know I'm talking about bad ownership. And I'm not going to listen. There's plenty of rich people.
You don't have to name a team.
Listen, I'm more than happy to name names, but I'm not going to name. People who have enough money to bury me, I ain't naming names. People who can see me on the street and I got to look them in the eye, then I can name names. But no, if you have bad ownership, it's hard to overcome that, because a bad owner can be a bunch of things. A bad owner can be someone who doesn't give you enough money to win, doesn't give you the structure, doesn't give you the necessary tools to win. A bad owner could be someone who's constantly meddling and second guessing, or again, there's owners in plenty of sports that make decisions. So a bad owner is hard to overcome. A bad GM is impossible to overcome. But you don't have a whole lot of bad GMs anymore, because they usually, if they were bad GMs, they were bad before they were GMs. So but there's usually not one person to blame, although I guess you would say that the GM is if the GM would be the most responsible, because the GM puts everybody in position, right? The GM hires the coach, the GM hires the scouts, the GM hires the development staff, the GM hires the executives. So if the GM isn't doing at least a better than average job, the team ain't gonna win.
And nobody wants to be a GM, do they?
Oh, I don't want to be a GM to that. Oh,
no.
Oh,
that's the argument I always get in with people before everything with the Blackhawks happened and Bowman was still in charge, before all of the stuff. it was like, I can't stand him. And people are like, but who would you rather have take his place, Rachel? And I'm like, I don't know. There's nobody else. Like, I mean, somebody help me.
There's always people. I mean, again, there's always people. Like, again, the problem is we recycle a lot of things and it's not just the NHL. It's a lot of sports. There's a lot of recycling. There's a lot of, a lot of, I mean, there was a person one time who was getting paid by 4 teams not to work for them. I think 12, 13 years ago. Like,
to not work for them.
I'm saying he was, I'm not,
wow.
But there's point. I mean, again, there's probably 50 people that no one's ever even heard of that would be out. That'd be great GMs. Now you don't know that because no one's heard of them, and but they're doing exemplary jobs in other areas where they're not, focal points, where they're under the radar, where they're doing, like the Billy Bean, where he's just pointing at the guy that no one knows who he is. When I point to you, you talk. Like that guy. Again, I only watched the movie and read the book, but he seemed like a genius to me. Like, and I can't remember his friggin' name. I can just remember Jonah Hill playing. So
yeah, exactly.
Again, the guy's a genius, and it's Jonah Hill's guy, whatever the hell his name is. So those are the type of guys that and you got to find those guys. But if you it's hard to, you don't even know what it looks sometimes. But as I said, there's a lot there's a lot of non-traditional routes you can go. But I don't have the answers. I mean, but by all means, I'm more than happy to take one of those jobs if someone wants me. I'll take any bullets.
Breezy, do you have anything else? I feel like we could talk to I feel weird calling you Yank. I feel like I don't know you well enough yet.
That's fine. You call me Mark, call me Yank, it doesn't matter.
We got a Kings game we got to watch here in about a half an hour. So
it's the stressful part of the year. I am not watching this anymore. I had to stop watching us at the trade deadline. That was it's just if we're up a goal, I get stressed, and if we're down a goal, I get stressed. But I got plenty of guys in the team that have texted me the whole time what's going on. So I might as well abuse myself and watch the game. It's even worse waiting for a text.
Could be a good game tonight. Could be a potential playoff matchup. So
absolutely.
One last question for you on my side. Out of every active player in the NHL this season, who has been your most, the one that you've been most impressed by, and the one that you've been least impressed by?
I'm really impressed by Seider. He was a kid that he made a huge impression on us. And again, I thought we had him going into the draft. I thought we would have had Seider rated higher than any other team in the NHL. And now, obviously, Steve took him real high and higher, probably even higher than we had him rated. So I thought we were a little bit ahead of the curve, and because you have that arrogance or that, the sun revolves around us type of thing. So he's been supremely impressive. And he was impressive last year, and he was impressive when he played in the Swedish league. He's just impressive every time you talk to him, every time you see him. And he's followed that through with, again, if he was a Canadian and he was playing in a different market where Detroit's a little bit on the downswing, they're rebuilding like we were, I think he'd be getting even more and more press. I think he'd be a shoo-in for the Rookie of the Year, and he still might very well win it. But if he was in New York or Toronto, they would have already given him the trophy December 15th. So I've been super impressed by him. I don't know, I'm trying to think. It's probably not fair of me to say who I'm not impressed by.
Yeah, maybe not.
Probably not fair. I'm trying to think
because that's so relevant too. Because it's dependent upon so many things. If a prospect who's finally in the NHL isn't doing well, like if Zegras was playing horrible aside from and not scoring any of his lacrosse goals, then people would be like, oh, he's a total disappointment, so it's kind of relevant, right?
There's plenty of guys I could say are disappointing. The problem is you're going to get some AA minor leaguer on my best day, I couldn't disappoint as well as they are. Like it just seems disingenuous for me to, as I said, I can evaluate guys and I can evaluate them fairly, but to go on and say that this guy is disappointing, I mean, I would have cut off vital parts of my anatomy to be as disappointing as who I think the worst guy in the NHL is. Fuck, I'd go back and do it right now if I could. So it's not that I'm against saying it. It's just, if Rob Blake wants to say that a guy isn't good, yeah, fucking Rob Blake's the Hall of Famer. He can pretty much say whatever he wants.
That's true. Go right ahead.
Mark Yannetti played 385 games in the East Coast League level and a handful in the IHL and AHL, very fucking single digits, wants to say a guy isn't playing well. It just seems
doesn't hold as much weight.
It just seems keyboard warrior-esque, like it just, it seems like the guy in his basement. Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want you to do that. We don't want you to do that. No,
yeah. No, as I said.
We're not looking for clickbait. I can promise you.
No, I know. It's just, as I said, if I were better than I was, I'd be just throwing guys under the bus left and right for you guys now.
That's great. Okay, well, here's some things you can go on the record with, and I don't think you'll have a problem saying, because these are our final 3 questions. And we ask everybody these questions, men or women. Who is the ultimate hockey hunk?
The ultimate hockey hunk. Well, can he be retired?
Yeah.
Well, again, there's no one. I mean, Jarrett Stoll. He's the Dos Equis guy. Like the Dos Equis guy used to just probably watch films of Jarrett just hanging around, like fucking to get tips, to do the commercial. Like I had no issue saying that. Like just go into our office. I mean, that's him. He's the hunk. There's no one. It's everyone's fighting for the bronze and the silver.
Yeah,
that is
nice
so funny.
Too. Nice.
Oh, he is. He's unbelievable. No, he's unbelievable.
Favorite hockey lady.
Favorite what?
Hockey lady. Wife, girlfriend, broadcaster.
Well, again,
player.
It's not fair because now I'm going to say the power couple. I mean, the couple of times I've met her and she's been wonderful. Like, how you meet the host at Dancing with the Stars. You meet a celebrity, and you're like, oh, I just hope they fucking suck. You're like they can't be that good in person. Like they're a great couple, and she's a wonder. Like she's one of those people that and again, I've only talked to her a couple of times. I don't want to be like a creep, but like the more you talk to her, the funny, like the more you like her, the prettier she is, the funnier she is. Like this, like you talk to me long enough, and all of a sudden, like, geez, does he have any teeth, or is he 5'1"? like most people don't, get better with time, but I don't know. She's good. If I was thinking of,
do you follow the women's side of the sport?
You've
got a lot on your plate, so I wouldn't expect.
No, I do. I mean, again, every one of the hosts on the NHL channel, they're all awesome. They're interesting. They're smart. They're informed. Watching like AJ Malesko do a game, like she's I love intelligence, and she was a Harvard girl and she played at the highest levels, and she's super intelligent. So I don't know. Anytime I see a girl talking about, or a guy, either way, I like intelligence. But since we were talking about the hunks first, and now we're talking about the ladies, I like that. I like when people know what they're talking about and are intelligent. So when I see AJ doing a game or something like that, that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. The last question: do you have a Sidney Crosby story?
I don't. I was doing pro scouting at the time in Toronto, but I would go see amateur games. I would do a little bit of both. And he was, I mean, I didn't really scout. You talk about being a fan. Like I remember going to watch a game, and I looked down after the second period. I didn't have any notes written down. I just was wowed by him. And I forgot to do what I was there to do. So I don't know if that's a story, but I'm there to write down notes and evaluate him and give points as to why he's good and why he should be. And 2 periods in, I look down, I got nothing written. I'm like, oh shit, I might have to make some stuff up. I get the hockey thesaurus out. So that's probably the closest thing I have to a Sidney Crosby story.
Hey, it's more than I got. My closest Sidney Crosby story is I've never seen him play in person. So
really,
yeah, you've got me beat on that one.
I don't think I've seen him play, but I've interviewed him.
Yeah.
Go figure. So.
There you go.
We didn't even bother interviewing him. We weren't going to waste his time. So he was going to be. Well, he was going to be, as he said, right. You want to take up? Hey, Sid, you know what? You got 5,000 media people trying to talk to you. we're at the combine, you got 30, well, why don't we take up 30 minutes of your time in case you fall to 26? No.
Right. Not happening.
No.
Right.
No. So we don't waste his time. And so again, I never interviewed him. I never really spoke to him in person like that. So
yeah,
it's all good.
Where can people follow you on social?
Can't.
Oof.
I am social
Don't.
media. I am. I don't have any. I have zero social media footprint. I've never been on one. I've never been a member of any social media site ever.
Respect. Good for you.
Yeah, it's just. Well, you know, respect. You want to lose respect to me? I got you guys emailed me, so I got an AOL address from a fucking email. So, yeah, I'm really hip and cool, and I'm an alternative guy. I'm a vanguard, not being on social media. Yeah, guy's an idiot. He's got an AOL address. He's just lazy.
Oh man.
I don't think there's anything wrong with an AOL address.
Oh, that's good. But no social media, nothing at all like that.
All right.
I prefer. It's funny. I prefer not to like you guys. I think you guys might be the first. Did I do one with John Hoven? I might have done one with the mayor, but you guys are like the first interview I've done this. I usually only do interviews when Rob and Luke tell me I have to do interviews. I usually, it was great. That's the best of me. I keep saying Mike Fuda, but Mike Fuda loved doing it. Like when we were together, I never had to do a thing. I never had to announce a pick. I never had to do anything. I could just sit there and just be me. And I like this. Don't get me wrong. I had a blast tonight. This was a lot. I didn't know what to expect. This is a lot of fun. But no, I don't do a whole lot of this stuff. So no, it's just cool. And I got no social media. I mean, if people want to send up smoke signals or old Morse code, Pony Express, that's probably the best way to reach me.
Should we just put your email address in the show notes and let everybody blow up your AOL so you have to get a new email?
That's right. I don't know that AOL could handle more than 17 emails. So if I'm going to say your viewership would crash it in about, it wouldn't have to worry.
No. Well, we are really grateful for you and your time. And this was so much fun for us.
Yeah, I had a blast. I really did. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thanks for coming over to our House of Hockey podcast and hanging out with us. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And in the meantime, you can follow us on social media. Just look for House of Hockey podcast. We'll be back next week.